Hey there, I've been playing Visions of Mana lately, and I thought I'd share my thoughts on the game so far. First, there's the graphics. The cel-shaded character designs look great, and so do the environments, which oftentimes give the player gorgeous scenic views over the landscape. And there is so much green. Green hills everywhere, and so many varieties. If you're like me, and are familiar with the gorgeous 2D pixel art of Secret of Mana, this feels like an excellent realization of that aesthetic brought into a 3D Mana game. The character animations are also nice to look at, whether that's in battle, running around town, or traversing the large landscapes you'll be exploring. One negative, though, is the facial animation on the characters is not always very expressive, which can bring down the serious tone of some scenes. I would say it's noticeable at times, but doesn't detract from my overall enjoyment of the game.
You have to wait here for him!
If you won't be reasoned with, we will have to make you stay by force!
It's urgent! Queen Palomina has slipped out of her room unattended again!
Hey!
The combat is initially simplistic, but opens up significantly as the game progresses. Each character has a normal attack and a heavy attack that can be combined in various ways to form combos. You can also jump and then perform attacks, which is helpful for flying enemies or diving into enemies on the ground. The depth in the game's combat comes from engaging with its class system. As party members are added to your group, and as you collect more elemental vessels, you'll gain access to more classes. Equipping a vessel onto a character will change their class. With 8 vessels and 5 characters, there are a total of 40 classes to play as. Many of them will change the character's main weapon, which means you'll have a few fighting styles to experiment with per character. It's certainly an involved class system with unlockable active and passive skills that can be carried over to other classes when you decide to switch, as long as the target class uses the same weapon. I tend to be the kind of player that will just keep using whatever works until running into trouble, and then grind a little if there are any difficult parts. I pushed against this nature by experimenting with a few of the different classes. I found that I tend to prefer using the main character, Val's Great Sword. Karina's Divine Fist class is a close quarters pugilist and feels like a refreshing break from her spear-based classes. Morley seems to work best with a katana or knives. I tried one of Palomina's kicking-based classes, but prefer her Grand Diviner class, which uses a scythe. Out of all of these characters, though, I'll mostly stick with Val as the great sword-wielding Rune Knight. The 3-hit normal attack and the normal charged attack have a very generous range, and his aerial strong attack is a very effective finisher. I have 5 of the 8 elemental vessels so far, and I guess I'm waiting to see what all the classes are before I decide to spend all of my elemental points. I'm sure players that enjoy tinkering will get a lot more mileage out of this aspect of the game. And there will definitely be time to tinker with that, as beating the game unlocks a new Game Plus mode and a new very hard difficulty option. So there is more to play with right from the beginning of the game if that's what you're looking for. Upgrading gear is simple enough. Armor upgrades are linear stat increases. Weapons have more variety, with some offering trade-offs, and each character seems to be able to wield at least 2 different kinds of weapons too. Val has a short sword, heavy sword, and a heavy sword and shield combo. Morley has daggers, a rapier, and canes. Karina has a spear and caestus. And Palomina uses a scythe, flail, and boots. I haven't unlocked the 5th character yet. There's tons of collectible balls of syrup in the world, too.
Grizzly! I have gathered some grizzly syrup.
The Dud Bears will love this.
Got some syrup!
And you can trade them in for some decent items that will improve stats, although the inventory for these items is limited. The inclusion of the Dud Bear dictionary is worth a laugh also. The other thing you'll be doing a lot is exploration. Between towns, you are free to explore the countryside at your leisure, or simply run directly to your next destination. Most of the time, I'll do the majority of the enemy encounters on the main path and take a look at a few of the branching paths. However, at one point I was dying to one boss repeatedly, and so to take a break, I decided to pick up some side quests and go out into the world to collect items and gain experience and money. This was an enjoyable, albeit somewhat mindless experience for me. A lot of it is killing variations of known enemies and doing fetch quests, but there are some hard-to-reach treasure chests too, and it feels so rewarding when you finally reach them. So yes, the side quests are fetch quests not unlike those you'd find in an MMO. How do I feel about this? I just shrug. They're fine if you set your expectations accordingly. Even though the dialogue is just there as set dressing, I read it anyway. Hey, the quest where the guy writes a little kid with no friends and sends his message in a bottle back out to sea was... It's pretty good filler writing. This is the exception though, and not the rule. I'd legitimately be interested in hearing about games that implement side quests in a good way and learning what makes them successful. Never mind, just did the research. Good examples are Majora's Mask, Yakuza, The Witcher 3, and Baldur's Gate 3. The key seems to be excellent writing with some kind of emotional component that will resonate with the player, and natural pacing that feels well integrated into the main story. So basically, not get 5 bat wings and bring them back to me, which is what most of Mana's side quests are. Right, back to points about exploration. Both in towns and field areas, there will be plenty of treasure chests to open, and they'll be marked on your minimap. It could be said that simply putting everything on the minimap disincentivizes the player from exploring the area themselves. I might agree with that claim, but I don't always feel like exploring, so having the items on the minimap is actually incentivizing me to engage with that part of the game. It's like the game is saying, are you sure you want to run by this area? It looks like there's a treasure chest or elemental trigger nearby. Only takes a second. So maybe players like me are the problem. Whoops. Sorry for not immersing myself more. Another thing about the markers on the minimap. More often than not, I'll be standing right near something, but not be able to find it. So the game does require a little bit of work to search your surroundings and then notice, hey, there's that treasure chest, it was hiding in plain sight. The music in this game is fantastic. I love how it perfectly matches the story moments. The combat tracks really bring the right energy and feel exactly like what you'd expect from a modern Mana game. Plus there's a good variety. Regular battles, rare encounters, and boss fights all have their own themes, which is great. My favorite tracks are the exploration and town music, especially the ones around Illistana. Maybe it's because I've listened to a lot of RPG soundtracks, but I can definitely hear hints of familiar songs throughout the game. For example, the field music in Pritter Ridge gives me a bit of a Xenogears and Final Fantasy XII vibe. While Illistana itself reminds me a little of Juno from Final Fantasy XI. And the music in the Luca Ruin sounds a lot like something in Final Fantasy VII. No shared composers between these games, though, just similar vibes. The story centers on Val and a group of adventurers called Alms, who must sacrifice themselves to the Mana Tree to keep the world thriving. The game is pretty cutscene heavy, especially at the start, but the plot is easy to follow. Each party member fits a familiar archetype, and as you explore new regions, you meet new characters and face different challenges. While the story doesn't break any conventions, it draws you in with its charming characters and the situations they find themselves in. Overall, the game is solid at what it sets out to do. The standout features for me are the stunning environmental graphics and engaging story. Class system and difficulty options will definitely keep hardcore players coming back. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but honestly, does it need to? For me, I was looking for a visually impressive game with a decent story and a solid battle system, something that captures the quality the Mana series is known for, and I think it delivers on that. Side note, do you pronounce it Mana or Mana? I keep bouncing between the two. Should I have put a Mana versus Mana counter in the video? Anyway, if you're a fan of the Mana games or JRPGs in general, I think you'll enjoy this game. It's worth getting now if you don't mind paying full price, but if you're looking for a deal, grab it on sale for a solid action RPG experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.